that a retweet saying that we're live. Dun, 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 dun. We are live. Cool. All right, John. Just give me just say your name for me real quick. Your name and your handle for the audience. Who are you?
Your name and your Yeah, it's John Merritt. My handle's Johno Streams. Hopefully, one day Twitter will end up giving me my own Johno handle, but we'll see what happens.
We're gonna have to pay somebody off. Maybe I'll make friends with Musk and get it for you. All right.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
All right, so we are live. I just wanted to make sure we had your audio coming in. You sound crispy. John, I'm going to let you kick off the live stream. Welcome to the Odd Man Out podcast season 2. This is the podcast for content creators, people who work in gaming content. And today we have Johno Streams on the podcast for our listeners. So, John, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. Hey guys, nice to meet you. My name is John. Johno sounds like an old YouTube video from like 2010. My name is Johno. You can call me Johno. You can call me John, whatever works best for you. I'm a Twitch partner. Don't really get to stream too much anymore. I've recently been getting back into it, but where my heart's been at is just the EDU space. I got into the EDU space through soccer, traditional sports, and being able to just see esports become a reality here. I believe there's over 413 varsity programs now, and if you throw in the clubs, there's about 800 programs across the country. And so my heart really is to just learn from a lot of my past failures and past mistakes and be someone that steps into the space and innovates at different levels of the ecosystem and provides value with my knowledge and just everything I've learned over the last couple of years. And so currently, I'm the director of esports at Oklahoma Wesleyan University. I'm also the director of esports for our youth facilities here in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. I run all of our K through 12 esports students, and then a lot of my remaining college players help coach those players out. So I'm responsible for almost 100 players on the day-to-day. Do a lot of stuff just in person with them over at our local esports arena. And then more recently, I just founded the Collegiate FGC, one of the co-founders with a group of awesome director friends of mine. I'm currently the CEO. We've been building that out we had the idea back in March of 23, and then it's really just blown up. I got back from DreamHack in Atlanta, and it looked like we had about 70 universities represented, either officially or unofficially, with top players, even in the pro scene, that are currently attending universities competing in our league. So I do a lot of stuff, do probably too much, my wife says, but I'm still home every day in time to eat dinner and spend time with my kids and family. So
the important stuff, and that's like what really drew me to you, John. Like we hadn't met, I don't think, in person until we had a call last week, but I was really excited to talk about the EDU space because you're one of those people where I came from the EDU space about 5 years ago, but you're still very much in it. So you've seen where it started and where it currently is. And after talking to you, you just have such a knowledge base, but you were so open to sharing your experiences. So what I want to start with, because our listeners and viewers don't have any context, why don't you provide a little bit about what you do? I know you do a lot in the EDU space, but if you could summarize kind of what your mission in the EDU space has been for the past couple of years, maybe that'll help give us some context.
yeah, no, definitely. My mission's really been to make a difference in the space. A lot of my struggles as a student and as a kid, and when I first got into gaming, was mental health. My senior year in high school, I'll just be straight up blunt. I tried to take my life in a car wreck. I wrecked my car for about 45 yards, and I got out of that with just a bitten lip. Thankfully, I had my seatbelt on, but got out of that after rolling it on the far side of town here in Bartlesville. And gaming was my escape. It was what helped me get through my brokenness and my parents' divorce and just everything that I'd gone through as a kid. And I ended up quitting soccer, getting into gaming, and I spent probably my 10,000 hours in Call of Duty. Was not the most family-friendly player in the world. And I was a kid, searching for meaning, searching for community, didn't have a mentor, didn't really have a purpose. I got back into soccer. I'd end up tearing my ACL 2 times. And what ended up happening after that was just in a really dark spot. And so I ended up coming back to the gaming community when the vlogger from San Diego moved out here. His name's Luke Sauer. And Luke started in this like scooter group with Tanner Fox back in the early days in San Diego. And then he moved out to small town Oklahoma. And it just kind of reignited that passion that I had for creation. And I was a freshman in college at the time. And Luke and I'd stay up live streaming on YouNow And I was just sharing my testimony. I was just sharing my story about how I found meaning in my own personal journey through community and through faith. Something that had burned me a lot in the past, but
Mhm.
being able to find meaning and knowing that I was created on purpose for a purpose, and that I had something of value to give to other people. It really just it pulled me back. It pulled me back from that brink. And I found community. I had healthy mentors, just really awesome, incredible men that invested time into me, helped me to learn from my mistakes, helped me
Mm.
to own my mind, and just develop as a young guy, as an individual. And having that brotherhood and that camaraderie um, was something that I wanted other people to experience. I wanted other people in the
Mm.
space to experience meaning, and to not feel like life is too dark, that you don't have to be here anymore, but to understand
Mm.
that you're created for a reason. And so I began sharing my story on that app on Live Me, and we had a bunch of people join our chat every night, and people were talking about how they felt like they were meant to be there, and like they're not going to give up anymore. And
Mhm.
even so far as to like me calling the local police of a viewer that was threatening to take his life in El
Mm.
Paso, Texas. And the police actually showed up to his house. I was able to get in contact with his family because we were friends on Facebook. And
Mhm.
now he's been able to purchase his dream car. And I won't mention him by name just out of
Yeah.
respect for him, but he knows who I'm
Mhm.
talking about. And so many, many more stories like that. People that
Mhm.
were addicted to drugs that popped into my stream. And so my university saw that, and they
Okay.
were like, man, like we would love to bring people to our community here. We'd love for you to create our esports programs. Like, okay,
Mhm.
what does that mean? I'm just not graduating college at the time.
Yep.
And over the next 3 years, it became a huge learning experience. I just kind
Mhm.
of kept my head down. I'd hop in some calls here and there with a lot of the directors from the KCAC as we were trying to figure that out.
Mhm.
Sergio Brack, shout out to Sergio, and those guys from KCAC, and the Ottawa and the Bethany guys, Blake, and trying to figure this whole thing out and just really
Mhm.
learn as a young guy. And the most important thing for me was one, I'm pretty sweaty when it comes to games, just with my athletic background with almost 15 years of soccer. I don't like losing. If you're losing, you're not having fun. I know that's
Right.
toxic, but
Right.
everybody likes to win.
Mhm.
But being able to be at a small university and not necessarily having the resources that a lot of big institutions have, I had to humble myself and
Mm.
figure out how to do this. There was a lot that I had to learn how to do on the fly. Um, Most directors are not paid,
Mhm.
anywhere near comfortable living standards. Like I'll be honest, like I could go work at Panda Express in our town and make a good chunk of change more
Oh
to
yeah.
provide for my family, but I felt called to the space. My school, it made such a difference in my life, spending tons
Mhm.
and tons of hours with my professors, shedding tears with my professors when
Mhm.
my dad was in the hospital with his heart surgery. Like I wanted other kids and students to experience that community and to
Mhm.
find meaning, and gaming to be the thing that we could support them in, and offer them opportunity in. There's a lot of things over the 3 years that university had to learn on their side that I had to
Mhm.
learn on my side. Um, I think the tough thing is when you're in a position of leadership, the burden of leadership is being that mediator between the corporate and the institutional world,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
trying to shepherd and protect your people and do what's best for them, even though you don't necessarily have all the power, or as most directors know, like not all the resources to do that.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
being willing to have grace and forgiveness, not just for yourself, but also for your leadership above you,
Yeah.
and then hopefully back the other way.
Mhm.
I think is a necessary. It's so necessary.
Mhm.
I think that the enemy of innovation is fear, and
Yeah.
the only way to be free of that fear is to have enough grace to learn from your mistakes. I think culture as a whole is in a position where we immediately just know you're not ever able to do anything again when you've
Right.
made a mistake.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we've pulled grace and forgiveness out of culture and society. And I actually think that that's why we're stuck in a lot of industries, because we're too afraid, we're too fearful. We don't have that freedom to make a mistake and learn from it. Um, and so hopefully that kind of answers my heart behind the EDU space. I think
Yeah.
just having an opportunity, like
Mhm.
for example, I won't say the player's name, but I had a
Yeah.
player that played Overwatch that he made some pretty terrible mistakes. He said some pretty terrible stuff online and lost
Mhm.
a huge opportunity during a season of his life that he had. But he was a super gifted and talented player, and I was able to give him one of our very few $20,000 scholarships that we had. And now he's almost about to graduate. He's in the best shape of his life because I took a
Hmm.
chance on him.
Yeah.
And he was in the arena dropping F-bombs, slamming the desk, and we were having
Right.
lots of talks in my office. And it
Hmm.
was super awkward because this guy's like 2 years younger than me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn as a new coach how to lead this guy.
Hmm.
But just being able to see him blossom, he's not at my school anymore. He went through another rough season and ended up dropping out after that semester. And then he was
Hmm.
able to move to a local college back home when he moved back home and was just recuperating.
Yeah.
And I love this player, you know, like I'm always rooting for him. He's at another college and I signed his paper so he could transfer to that other college, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and just seeing him win and being able to celebrate that, just being a part of his journey. That's what I had, you know, that's what I had
Yeah.
with soccer.
Hmm.
And being able to be that for other people is what I care about most. And so, my heart, man, is just we have to have servant leadership.
Yeah.
If you cut the heart out of anything, whether it's film, anything, if it's not attached to the community and the heart,
Hmm.
and it's just for selfish gain and financial money, which I think a lot of universities are getting into the space. One, because the university system does predict that in the next 5 years, a third of the universities will close down. And
Yeah.
so there are universities that are like, man, like, yeah, we do need to meet this generation where they're at. How can we support them? And I think those
Hmm.
universities are thriving. I just had a post on LinkedIn that was really celebrating Winthrop University. They've
Yeah.
built incredible facilities and have done a fantastic job building out their program. But
Hmm.
universities have to know, and institutions and corporations have to know that when you're getting into this space, there's a lot of people that have been burnt by the traditional sports world or just by life, and this is their
Hmm.
escape. And so when you step in here and you don't necessarily have a good feel on the pulse and on the heart of esports and the people, you're going to really quickly burn bridges and you're going to hurt a lot of people. And so it
Hmm.
has to be done with the right mindset, to trust the experts, to trust the people you're hiring to be your directors, sourcing them, paying them properly, taking care of students, hiring out assistant coaches, taking care of those assistant coaches.
Hmm.
And we just have to flip the script. It really has to be leading from the back. It has to be from enablement. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and
Right.
we get stuck, and we end up in situations like we're in right now in professional esports in some regards. And so, yeah, man, I my heart's really heavily burdened. Over the last two
Hmm.
years, it's been a crazy roller coaster, as I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for the future and to just have learned from my experiences. And I'm really excited about what we got with CFGC going on,
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
our new collegiate league that we're building out. Just because
Awesome.
like that was built from the heart of how do we support the FGC? How do
Hmm.
we take the institutional money and flood the FGC with a stake in the ground that provides stability for generations to come? So I know that's a lot, but yeah.
No, you're making my job easy, John. We're gonna get into the leagues because I like right off the rip. I think what I want to do with this episode, which I don't hear a lot of people doing, is like let's forget money, financing, power, and greed. I
Yeah.
really like that servant leader quote that you talked about. So what I want to ask you is that people listening to this podcast are going to be the next generation of gamers, esports directors. They're people that look up to you.
Mhm.
Um, you said you built a program, you built several programs, and now you've managed like over 100 people, right? You've managed over 100 people, and you're like super
Yeah.
young. What I want to start with is if you had to start today, like we're talking esports gaming 2.0, whatever label you want to give it, if today is a fresh slate, like I agree with you. I think
Mhm.
that somebody's going to have to eventually just trust somebody, right?
Yeah.
So let's pretend today that we all trust each other. What would you tell an up and coming esports director or gaming director for the EDU space? What
Yeah.
advice what tactical blueprint would you give them to building that first, 50 people, right? Because you hit it
Yeah.
on the head. You want to build your tribe. So if you had to start today, John, from scratch in a trust filled society in collegiate, there's no bills, whatever, there's no stress. What would you
Yeah.
tell an esports director? Like, what are some steps you would take to fill your program or to build your
Yeah.
program?
Well, I think the most important thing is education.
Hmm.
I think a lot of universities will hire someone that's just a gamer. Thankfully, I was, just scratching Twitch partner with Star Wars: The Old Republic right whenever I stepped into the space. So I had a decent familiarity with it, with about 4,000 hours live on stream,
Hmm.
learning how to do that manually without TikTok, as you and I talked about. And so
We did.
I wasn't as unaware of the way that the collegiate world worked going into the space as even most people are, just being gamers. Then that's all they do is like they played Mario Kart maybe like 5 times.
Yeah.
And then they were the closest person in the meeting at the university that raised their hand. I would say education is super duper important. I think making sure that directors know going into the space. My friend Adam Antor, he has a list of all the salaries that every director in the country makes.
Oh wow.
Knowing like the level of struggle that you will have. Like we were literally living in my mom's living room as a newly married couple because I felt
Hmm.
this radical call to be the esports director. I was making pennies.
Right.
I love my institution, and there's been a lot of impact that's been made at my institution. I've had a lot of players go from homeless to now making 28 bucks an hour,
Hmm.
thriving. Guys that were at the same point that I was in, on the brink that now are running companies. And so there has been success stories, but there's also been a lot that if I would have had information and knowledge about certain things, like financial
Mm.
situations and stuff, that
Hmm.
that could have helped protect a lot of damage, to be honest. And so I think the most important thing is to make sure that your goals align with those that are in leadership above you.
Hmm.
Like what specifically do you need to not be in the dark about when building a
Mm.
program, just so you have a healthy outlook in terms of how what you're about to build is actually going to make a dent in the space. A lot of people start going all cylinders blasting and then end up in the hospital.
Hmm.
I was 23 or 22, and Adam and I were talking, and I can't remember if it was, I think it was 2022. There's 5 collegiate esports directors that ended up hospitalized
Mm.
just due to health stuff. I mean, I'm 25 and I have 2 ulcers in my stomach because there were weeks
Yeah.
where I was pulling 60, 70 hours a week.
Yep.
And my stomach's bleeding because I'm so stressed out, and the amount of
Hmm.
people university. Thankfully, my university wanted me to stream so I could utilize that for recruiting, and also for some financial stability. We know how
Hmm.
financially stable it is being a streamer. Um,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so,
Right. Once you make it,
um,
right.
but I was very
Yeah.
blessed
Hmm.
just to be able to scrape by. I mean, every month, in my heart, and my passion for the space, and my ability to have faith and trust
Hmm.
in something bigger than me has carried
Right.
me forward. Where lots of my players have told me, I don't know why you haven't given up at this point, to be honest, man. Like, you're crazy. Everybody else would have given up in your position.
Mm.
Um, but I think about those stories. I think about Josh. I think about Andrew. I think about Connor. And it's like, this is why I'm here. This is why I survived that car wreck.
Yeah.
It's for those guys. Um, and so, yeah, man, I think talking about leagues, I think we just, I mean, we can dive into that in a second, but
Hmm.
yeah, I think the
Hmm.
biggest thing is just making sure that you talk with other directors, and you learn like what the financial structure is of the institution that you're going to work for, so that you can make sure
Yeah.
that you're 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 equipped well to take care of your people well, because that's what it's about.
Hmm. So really, thank you for that. That's a like really really good answer. If you're looking to get into directing a program or somebody's approached you, go back and listen to what John just said because he just saved you like 3 years of potential physical harm, right? Um, so thank you for sharing that, John. I know a big question I get asked a lot is, um, and there's no answer, or maybe there is, and I just don't know where it is. But if, because you said like meet other directors, where would you recommend people go to start meeting and communicating? Because I think that if
Yeah.
you just Google this or YouTube it, the algorithm's going to feed you like the top 5 programs in the nation, and you're not going to hear,
Yeah.
where are these conversations happening? Where would you recommend
Yeah.
somebody who wants to get involved like go? Is it Discord, Twitter? I'll let you take that.
I mean, a lot of the directors in the collegiate world are super vocal on Twitter.
Yep.
I've been pretty silent on it. I don't know if you like follow the collegiate director conversations. It gets pretty spicy, is what a lot of
I
directors
like
say.
I like the esports director. I've been watching. That's where I get a lot of my strategy from is watching esports directors. They don't hold
That's
back.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I think that's something that's evolving. I mean, there's been certain conferences and stuff that have started to blossom.
Hmm.
NACAD will be at that for CFGC here in the next year.
Hmm.
There are institutions and boards that are there to educate people on the space. Obviously, it costs money, and like I said, most directors aren't paid super well. So, no, you're blessing a director if you pay to go to that, so you can
Hmm.
learn from that.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that one of my mentors and friends says is like information's free, but
Hmm.
implementation's not. And so like if anybody ever has any questions about stuff, like please reach out. Like I'd love to have a call with you and just see how I can add value and share some of my story if it helps you save time and pain, and it opens up doors for you. I mean,
Right.
that's the thing. We have to be willing to for a society to function as a whole, there has to be a base level of collaboration. We can have
Hmm.
competition pockets inside of that,
Hmm.
but we have to be willing to multiply. And so a lot of what I've learned has been through John Maxwell. If you're familiar with John
Hmm.
Maxwell, I didn't
Yes.
realize that his add value thing that I've been saying for a while was actually like something that he threw in, and
Yep.
he's like really known for saying. Until literally like we had our conversation, and then I was on LinkedIn. I was like, "What the heck, dude? I must have subconsciously picked up on this." And so
Right.
I think that the most important thing is like how can directors add value to the space, because we do want to see
Yeah.
this place become more stable and thriving, and so that's just by getting more great minds into the space. And so
Yeah.
yes, we all want to have the best collegiate program in the country, but there's still so many conversations and so many great innovators that haven't been able to tap into it yet.
Mm.
And so instead of operating out of a posture of fear, like, oh crap, if I give this person something, he's going to become better than me. No, it's like, how can I add value to this person? And then
Hmm.
hopefully they turn around and they're like, how can I add value to you? Even
Yeah.
if not, you still have to be willing to turn the other cheek and to still just do your part. And that takes a lot of risk. It's not easy. By any means, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And I've been burned whenever I've done that
Uh-huh.
with other people. But the world has to function like that, at some level of collaboration. So reach out to me, reach out to Adamantor, reach out to any director, and hopefully they'll
Hmm.
get back to you. If not, there are tons of great directors that will. We all are super duper busy, but what
Hmm.
we do is if someone is still in the space at this point, like it's because they care about the space.
Yeah. Yeah.
So please reach out to a director that's been in the space for more than 2 years, and it's probably
Hmm.
someone that purely just cares about the space and really doesn't care about the money side of stuff. So
Dude, we're getting like the real answers. Like, go find the people who are still out there and building, and they are out there. That's like, I met John, and I was like, yes, I'm back. Like, I feel like there's something being built. Fantastic, fantastic answers, John, and thank you for that. So please, if you're considering getting out there, or trying to get involved, like reach out to John, reach out to
yeah,
everybody that he's plugged. We'll put them in the show notes. John will send me everybody's links because I want to get those written out. It'll be in our
yeah,
newsletter too, John. Um,
okay,
to build on that too, like you said, like knowledge. People aren't going to be charging for knowledge like very very soon. Like you said, it's better for us to share our learnings because it gets us on an equal playing field much quicker.
yeah,
I was on a podcast last night where they asked me to plug my product, and I said, you know what? I've had my product up for 1 month, and I realized it's not helping me achieve my mission of getting more creators to start posting. So I
yeah,
just said it's all free now, and I'll figure out a different monetization, right?
yeah,
Because you've recognized too, we have to elevate each other up, right? To even like we have to let people get onto the field to play the game. And
yep,
most of the people, like you said, that want to be involved don't know how to like even get onto the field. So that's
yeah.
really, really good insights. Let's say
I mean, the
let's
Fortnite model succeeded for a reason.
mm,
It's the most
mm,
massive game other than Minecraft for a reason. The free to play
yeah.
model works. Um, I think
Hmm.
that there can be a healthy level of having free, like you said, you have to find another way to monetize it. So through
Hmm.
coaching, through spending individual time with people, through implementing the strategies themselves, I think you can have a healthy level of tons of awesome free resources that equip people. And then on the backside, there can be stuff that is like more in depth and detailed,
Hmm.
or custom tailored to people that, I mean, because everybody's got to provide for themselves at the end of the day. And
Right.
so there has to be a healthy, I guess, back and forth tango with that. So,
Yeah. Really, really good points. What I want to do is shift a little bit of our gears, John, because we talked about EDU. I
yeah.
think I think everybody recognizes that we're just in for a couple years of building, right? We have to get to a level of trust. We need more leader servants, servant leaders, and we need to have faith in each other, right? Like somebody is going to have to eventually just, all right, I'll trust you. I don't know you.
Yeah.
I don't, but if you're still here, like you said, we're here for a reason.
Yeah.
So reach out to John about the EDU space. I want to shift gears because we've been talking about, everybody's talking about collapses of leagues, but I want to go flip it, right? Let's talk about building leagues because you are the
Mm.
guy. You're the guy, John. Um,
Thanks,
why
dude.
don't you give our no, like seriously, like dude, I've been in the space. Like I just make YouTube videos, so like when I
Yeah.
interview people, like I was like, damn, John wants to like talk to me and give me insights because I'm just a smooth brain like content creator, right?
Yeah.
What I want to talk to you about first is like let's give our audience some context. This is a great opportunity for you to Let's go into, I know you do multiple leagues, but let's talk about
Yeah.
like one league you're very excited about and give our listeners some context about a league you've previously built and kind of like what
Yeah.
entails building a league. Like, let's get some
Man.
context.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think it goes down to the base level first of like, what does it take to build a team? There's an awesome test that anybody can take called the Working Genius. I don't know if you're
Mm.
familiar with it.
No, never heard
It
of it.
talks about the inception of an idea and how that idea actually comes to fruition. And it basically pulls together a team of people. I think his name's like Pat. I'm going to butcher his last name, but his name's Pat. If you look up Working Genius, you'll find it. He's
Yep.
made it super duper cheap. So we talk about like free information. I mean, it's $25 to take this test. That's like way cheaper than most of these other personality tests. But it's not even a personality test. What it does is there's 6 different facets of the Working Genius. I'm not getting paid to say this, and like I'm not selling this, but
Right.
it's been super effective in my time at Rewind, in my time now at our youth esports facility that we have, and then now in my time at Collegiate FGC at CFGC. And so what it does is it talks about the inception of an idea all the way to fruition. And so basically you have
Wow.
to surround yourself with people that are better at your weaknesses. And so there's going to be 2 things on that test that fill you up, that give you fuel, that it's like, oh my gosh, I was created to do this. I'm super passionate whenever I
Okay.
do this. Like for you, Danny, it might be like videoing, or
Yeah.
it might be like it's some type of thing that fills you up. And it's like, oh my gosh, when I do this, I'm on fire and I could do this for
Yes.
24 hours straight.
Hmm.
And so it starts with wonder and then it goes to invention. So the idea has to be there has to be that epiphany, that moment where it's conceived. And then it goes to invention, it's inventing it. And then it goes to discerning. You got to cut the fat off of it. Like,
Hmm.
how do you cut through some of this and like make it as simple and defined as possible? Then you have your galvanizers, which is the person that rallies the people and gets people motivated. You know, your guys that are on stage with the microphones that are super hype,
Yeah.
like my buddy John
Yeah.
Rush. And then you got your enablers, like my
Okay.
friend Todd, who is just an enabler, man. He just serves people like crazy. He's just
Mm.
like, man, how can I help you to maximize your gift and talent? He spends more time serving other people than he's taking care of himself, kind of guy. You know, he's just an amazing, heartful, just great leader. So then it goes from enablement, and then it goes to tenacity, which is your finishers, the people that are really good at carrying the baton on the team across the finish line. And
Mm.
so you have to surround yourself with people that what'll happen is you'll have those 6 that kind of go
Yep.
through the path. You'll have 2 of those that'll be green on there, and it could be any combination of the 2. 2 that are yellow that you're indifferent about, that you're good at, like it doesn't matter, it doesn't bother you, you don't get energy, you don't lose energy. And then there's 2 that you just they're freaking exhausting, dude. When I do these things,
Yes.
like when I'm editing videos, oh
That's
gosh,
me.
dude.
People think
Yeah.
I love editing, bro. I hate it. I'm not an editor. I'm a creative manager now, dude. I feel you
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
one. I need to take this test because
It's amazing, man.
yeah, I've never heard of this, but like as you're speaking, like it makes so much sense. I am a solopreneur and my biggest problem is like I can come up with the idea, make it happen,
Yeah.
get people, but I can't get that baton over the finish line, right? Like you need that
Yep.
person who can
Yep.
help you. This is
Yeah.
really insightful. $25. Like, dude, that's 2 Twitch subs. Just
Yeah,
don't
he wanted
subscribe
to
to
make
2
it as
channels.
available for people.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it's driven from a servant leadership. It's how does he enable people to build organizations as successful as his? And so, taking that principle, as I was finishing my time up at Rewind, it was like, man, I'm looking at our staff and it's like, okay, we have a lot of discerners in the room, a lot of people that are really good at pointing out what needs to be done better, but we don't have
Yes.
a lot of finishers. And
Yes.
so, right before the separation there at the end of 22, I started having our staff take that test, and we paid for it for all of them. I personally did. If my staff couldn't afford it, I actually didn't pay for it out of the company budget.
Mhm.
Even though any company that's hearing this, I mean, you should really pay for it for your team if
Oh,
you
yeah.
if you want your team to be as successful as possible. And there's podcasts you can listen to the guy who created it if you want to learn more about it before you dive full into the book and everything. You don't even have to read the book; you just take the test. But applying those principles has been super duper fruitful. What I've done with my youth esports program before I go into collegiate FGC
Yeah.
is what I've recognized at the collegiate level is, oh my gosh, there's so many freaking esports, and I haven't even had enough 10,000 hours to put into like 2 of these games since I've been alive. Like I can be good at Call of Duty and Overwatch, but I have like 2 hours playtime in Valorant, whereas my Radiant player, Mini here, he has, you know, probably close to his like 7,000, 10,000 hour mark. My Rocket League players, I have 3 hours in Rocket League. Jordan's got 9,000 hours. I can coach him as a person and pour into him and hold him accountable and help him grow as a young man. But I can't tell him, you know, hey, you got to work on your rotations and your boost
Right.
management. I'm
Yeah.
kind of starting to understand it more. I can do that for other titles. And I wasn't able to do that at first with Overwatch, but from learning from other people, you know, it was something that I became better at. So what I learned was esports doesn't scale as like just soccer. It scales as an entire athletic department at the ED level. You need to have a part-time stipend coach for each individual title, and you need to be able to build out a varsity, an academy, and a club roster underneath each of those. And they could be hourly, they could be remote, they could be through Medify, like my friend Kyle, like Too Fast does for some of his schools. But what needs to happen is you need to be able to serve your people and have someone that's managing each individual team. So the model that I built for our youth esports program, we're competing in HSEL and MSEL. Our Splatoon team just placed #2 in MSEL this last semester. Had to name drop them because I'm super proud of those kids.
Yeah,
And
congrats, boys. Let's go.
what I decided to do was hire out my college players, one to create opportunities for them. We'd started doing this at Rewind, but basing it off of the club esports model or club sports model that I'd seen in traditional soccer. So one of my mentors is the executive director of a soccer club in our area. And so for all of his youth players, they're paying X amount of dollars upward so they can get coached by really good college talent. What does that do? That helps the college players that are now coaching those youth students to mentor them and build into them everything that they need to know so that one, they could end up replacing them and getting their scholarship when that coach ends up funneling out. But also what happens is that pays the coach. He's actually getting paid now to work in his specific field. He's getting experience, which is super duper healthy and super awesome. And then it's also helping to build out recruitment pipelines and a local ecosystem that feeds itself there to where everybody's getting blessed with opportunity. It's helping pass on the talents to the next generation in a healthy way. And so then it scales massively. And so taking that same philosophy, we started building out our youth esports program at Rewind. And my business partners there were awesome soccer guys. I never got to play soccer with them just due to my injuries and stuff, but that would have been super cool. I'll have to run some games with Tim at some point when my knee's better. But they also understood that philosophy and how healthy that is and how that model is actually probably the best model for sports or esports. Not that they're the same. To work under. And so what I did was I hired out my college players here to coach our youth esports teams from our middle schoolers all the way up to our high schoolers. And so it's created part-time jobs for my players to come in and coach. And we have it as cheap as $25 a month for my youth kids to be able to come and play, get a game and to practice in at our esports facility. And you can scale that. I mean, like gymnastics costs like $200. I don't think I'll end up charging $200 unless we just don't have enough PCs anymore and it's in such high demand. But even then, like we fundraise and we get scholarships for the kids that can't even afford the $25 a month. Like I probably have 30 of our 90 kids that are scholarshiped right now. That me and this awesome dad, his name's Will Smith, not Will Smith
awesome.
like the actor, but he's just a dad from a local ministry, and he goes to QuakeCon, and his son's on our Overwatch team, and like we've gone out and we fundraise, we've got some sponsorships to cover fees for these students. And so it's just, and it's in a nonprofit too. And if it's at a high school level or a youth level and it's in a nonprofit, then companies that want to support this generation where they're at, which you and I both know, 97% of kids play video games, 50% have played one in the last 24 hours. It's like, this is the perfect opportunity to get healthy mentorship into the lives of students, providing opportunities that will push them forward in life. And so we've built out that huge ecosystem, taking a lot of those same philosophies at CFGC. I've surrounded myself with awesome leaders that are better at things that I'm not at. And it's taken a lot. I mean, probably one of the most revealing things was I'm sitting there trying to coach my Overwatch guys the very first year. And they're like, Coach, you're not allowed to talk to us while we're in game. It's like, what the heck? I didn't even know that. How do they know that?
You don't know the rules. Dude, I hosted an Overwatch tournament and I had my players tell me how brackets were working. And I was like, oh, wow, it's changed since I've done it. But
I had to humble myself enough. I mean, that feeling stings, like it burns. You can physically feel how that burns to be a leader, but then like for your people to be like, yeah, coach, it's not that you suck, but you just don't know what you're doing right now. And so having to learn from that micro failure and learning from it the first time so I can propel myself forward. And so what I've learned is to just surround myself with people that are better at my weaknesses. And that's what's bore the most fruit. And so with CFGC building out our league, I mean, Jason is an absolute stud. I mean, the dude's an incredible galvanizer. He's galvanized the majority of the universities that are in our league. He's super duper good at what he does. And then Albie and Andrew, they're both really good at running tournaments and running brackets and taking care of the students and being directly hands-on with the students there. Nathaniel, our CFO, he works for Chick-fil-A. He's an accountant for them. And he's I don't like spreadsheets that much. I have to use them. I've managed budgets, but that's his gift. You know, he likes that for some reason. I don't know what's wrong with him.
Is he okay? Should we check up on Nathaniel?
Yeah, we should probably get him some coffee. And so there's a couple other guys like Mark and like Tom, you know, they're in partnerships and brand management. And so just surrounding myself with those guys, and then being able to be that eagle eye view over everybody and make sure that everybody's working
Hmm.
together well, making sure that I'm pushing healthy leadership principles into those guys. And then just pulling everybody together, I think is my strength. It's building a team of people. And I mean, that's what you do at Valorant. You pick people based on their different roles. For
Right.
Overwatch, you have to do that too.
Yep.
And also there's a level of like letting people write their own job descriptions that I think is super duper fruitful, because then it helps
Hmm.
people into that working genius model. I'm not going to put someone in a position that they're going to not love what they're doing. And
Right.
so when you start to put people in positions where they love what they're doing and they kind of figure that out with you, oh my gosh, man, it's amazing to just let people run. So
Yeah, yeah, and it takes like so much of the bandwidth off of you as the eagle eye, right? Like you have somebody
yeah,
who's passionate, fired up, and loves what they're doing under you. Like you can trust
yeah.
that person more. Spectacular, man, spectacular, dude. Have you interviewed before? Because like you're crushing it.
I've done a couple, but
Like
not a
I
lot.
just like
Thank you.
I was looking through your stuff and I'm like, man, this guy's not been on enough podcasts. Like the way you speak about like the fact that you're laying out like the model, right? You have to
Yeah,
surround yourself with people. For me, like I run my own business. I never wanted to run a
yeah,
business, and I've been like, okay, why is this not working? You connected it for me. I'm like, shit, I don't have anybody helping. Like a solopreneur is
yeah,
impossible, right?
yeah,
In any industry. Now, what I'd love to ask you, John, because we have 20 minutes and I want to make sure we give you time at the end to plug
yeah.
everything. What I would love to ask you is like we don't have a lot of hopium in this industry, and like now we've been talking
Mm,
about how to build a successful program. We've talked
yeah,
about how to surround yourself, right? We're setting people up for success. Let's pretend we live in this perfect world like where like everybody's working together.
yeah.
Let's talk about like innovation and like ideas, John. Like share what you're willing to share or not. Like I know
Yeah.
you're working on a few
Mm,
things, but
yeah.
like what are some things that really jazz you up? Like we could talk about like, like future of games, like different types of leagues. Like what is something that's really jazzing you up about the future of the gaming space in general?
Yeah, man. Well, I was just trying to brainstorm through like some of the most successful things from our youth program and what that provides at a micro level and how that can be
Right.
provided at a macro level
Oh,
when
good
it comes to
idea.
creating new leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just from my experience, there's an awesome thought leader. His name's Terry Parkman.
Mm-hmm.
You should look him up if you haven't started following him. He's a faith-based leader. But one thing that he talked about when I was up at North Central University in 2022 was Gen Alpha and Gen Z care about being a part of the conversation. They care about community. Your facility is going to sit there dead as a land center unless there's a reason for people to go into that space and gather there. So, how do we think about providing purpose,
Mm.
community, and then also access? Because there's a lot of demographics that can't afford a $1,500 PC.
Right.
How do we implement that free to play model in certain contexts? And so, I'll just take a radical shot out there.
Mm-hmm.
There might even be something that I'm not even aware of. But where my heart, man, is I want to serve nonprofits. I want to build a national chain of nonprofits that can. It doesn't. They don't even have to be named after whatever that big
Right.
league is that's providing a reason for people to gather in their facilities. But that's where my heart is, man. Is I want to provide access for youth to be able to start getting in at the entry point level. And if it's in the nonprofit model, then I'm just hoping that there's a lot of people that'll listen to this that are like, man, yeah, I want to support this generation where they're at. I got $1 billion. I need to get some tax write-offs. So let's put
Right.
it towards a good cause.
Hell
Because
yeah.
it's been awesome, man, to just see a lot of these kids blossom. News on Six came in and did a national television interview, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
what I said on that was like, why would you not want to create a space that helps teach this generation how to implement healthy discipline and structure surrounding their gaming habits? And how do they hone that into something that's going to propel them forward and is going
Mm.
to be their launching pad into success? And so I think the nonprofit model really needs that. I think land centers as a whole need a league that they can all compete in against one another per location, and they can charge that model, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
the 25 or all the way up to 100, and just start getting college players and dads and community. So many dads have been like, the most meaningful thing that I do is play Fortnite with my son. We've
Yeah.
connected in such a way that we couldn't before. Or I've even heard grandparents that are like, I can't play sports with my grandkids, but I can log on and play Fortnite with them. And I didn't even
Right.
know how amazing this would be. And so getting those kids in those environments, we have like 50, 60-year-olds that just hang out at our arena while their kids are there playing or their grandkids are there playing. and like we're able to do like parent coach meetings where like I had one of my students come in and share his story to like 30 parents. His name's
That's
Jedediah,
awesome. Yeah, that's
and he just
really
talked about
cool.
the impact that esports has had for him, man. We have a student that's I teach a high school esports class using some of NASEF's curriculum,
Mhm.
and I was talking to Jarrell and taught about it, and I was just like, man, like I teach this class, and there's several students that are in this back on track program. These kids are down and out on their luck. They've made some bad decisions at a young age. They might not have been in
Mhm.
the best circles, but now I'm seeing kids go from straight failing all their classes to some of these kids are like several A's, and
Wow.
their elective is esports. And
Yeah.
so we have them in this program that's a preventative program to pull them out of the back on track system that they basically would have to fail their freshman year going in from eighth grade into high school. They have to fail their
Mhm.
freshman year at regular classes before they get put in back on track. So we actually pull several of these students, we interview them, pull them in, and then they get esports. And then we also waive all of those students' fees if they want to join any of our teams. And so
Yeah.
the awesome thing that I've seen there, man, is one, we're doing this Lego Fortnite for class.
Yeah.
One day a week, what we do is I have my assistant coach. He's actually a high school student, but he's an intern for his high school credit hours, which is cool.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
there with me. And what Trevor's doing is he's helping teach a student each class period how to cast and play on the broadcasting booth while the other students are all working together in the same Lego Fortnite lobby. Since it's only
That's
10
cool.
students, we
Yeah.
juggle the students around and they get to play. But one thing that I want to share is I have one student we have one guy that's on staff who runs the food court that's there at the Youth Development Center. His name's Gage, and Gage was just sharing his story about how he'd made some mistakes, got in trouble with the law, and had done some pretty rough stuff.
Mhm.
I won't go into details just out of respect for him, but he was sharing that with another student who, once he heard that, this student was like, "You literally just like said my whole story to me. Like that's what I've been
Mm.
going through,"
Wow.
and just seeing them connect, bro, on that level, dude. Like right before I went to Atlanta, which I'm sorry we didn't get to meet when I was there.
Oh, you're all
Um,
good. Busy week.
it was just, it was just, it's just those stories. It makes it all worth it. And so being able to pull students into those opportunities and environments, dude, I think that's where my heart's at. That's what I'm excited towards. I'm excited towards the K through 12 education side, and the STEM learning pieces with like Minecraft EDU.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then utilizing that to have the colleges offer huge scholarships, man,
Yeah.
like full rides. I'm talking to 70% off for esports. That wasn't there possible. That wasn't possible before. And so that's what I'm excited about, man. That nonprofit league. There's a couple other things that if anybody wants to reach out and pick my brain on and work together on some projects, I'm an open book, man. Um, these ideas, all wisdom, I believe, comes from one source. And so even if I'm not the guy that implements some of these ideas, I would love to be. But I spit ideas out, and it's like, dude, like why don't we have an internet service provider that focuses on upload speed so all
Right.
streamers have stable internet connections? I don't know, stuff like that. It's like
Yeah.
somebody else like create that because I don't have enough time in my life. I get 80 years if I'm lucky. So
Yeah, that I actually was talking yesterday about what if we some ISP, like not Starlink specifically, but some Starlink-esque company
yeah,
targeted streamers, live streamers who want to be on the go. So they can go out and touch grass once in a while, man. Get them outside. That's phenomenal though. Please, if you're listening to this and if you're curious about nonprofit building leagues, the EDU space, John is he obviously has a lot of ideas to reach out to at Johno Streams.
I need some tenacity, guys,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need some
and some
tenacity.
galvanizers.
Well, I'm looking at that working genius now because I need to figure out which idiot part I am of the group so I can get the smarter people. Um,
Hey,
I
that's the
had a
best way to do
question.
it.
I had a question, John. Just curious about
Yeah,
this is a selfish question. When we talk about like DreamHack and all these like summits that creators and these organizations get invited to. What are your thoughts? Or maybe even have you thought about ways that we could potentially get these high schoolers into these events at a much lower cost? I
yeah,
went to
man.
DreamHack, for example, and I was like, man, when I was in elementary school, we used to wear like these bright yellow shirts and go to the zoo. Like,
Yeah.
are there organizations or are people thinking about like hosting field trips to these events? Like, have people
Mm,
approached you for these ideas? Because that's something
yeah.
I always thought about, like a high school field trip to a land center, because we used to pay
Yeah.
the zoo.
So we have a school that has students that have different neurodivergencies
Mm, mm-hmm.
within within their brain. And so these students are here locally, and I actually later today I'm going to be bringing them some curriculum to see what it would look like to implement an esports class for them. So
Oh.
these students came in. Some of them have different forms of autism, and I want to make sure I'm using all the right terms.
Hmm.
And the teacher Nancy walked up to me. They asked if they could have a field trip to our esports arena, which was super
Ah,
duper cool.
cool.
And they were dialed in, man. One of the students, Michael, one of the best Fortnite players I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
And like when he died in game, the dude was just so chill, bro. Like I'd easily give that student like $20,000 if I had it right now.
Right. Right.
Just because like obviously there's different gifts and talents that everybody has. But yeah, there are field trips that are starting to happen there. Another thing that I'm going to be working on, I'll actually be in Arkansas at a conference. It's a faith-based conference at a church actually there in Bentonville.
Hmm.
And we're going to be running a massive esports tournament for them. One of my friends is up at Elevation Church up in North Carolina. His name's John Rush. And we have a bunch of nonprofits and faith-based organizations, kind of like YMCA or Upward basketball type style stuff in the works. And my heart, man, is for us to host these esports tournaments,
Yeah.
pull all the local colleges in, pull all the local high schools in, give them a grounds that's free, basically,
Yeah.
that either their local church or someone is covering the cost for them to go to this event and for us to like run the tournament for them. And at this conference, it becomes a huge collision event for them to scout one another, to create opportunities for one
Hmm.
another. And so that's there's I think we have what 3 or 4 on our radar right now.
Cool.
My schedule is going to get so busy over the next year because we have more reaching out to us each week.
Yeah.
And so yeah, man, no, I think there has to be a healthy level of doing that. I do know NASEF has some free curriculum, which I think is really fruitful.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
That did.
It's
I
still a
was like,
space I'm trying to
dang.
innovate in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was just like, well, I have a fiance, I'm like newly engaged and we're talking about like our future. I'm like, man, like I hope my kids get to go to like visit a land center, right? Go to an
Yes.
event. Like, um, if school even functions the same way, right? If they're not flash learning by
Yeah.
then. Um, really, really, really insightful. What I just thought of too, John, was what I'm going to do with this interview is type this up into a blog for you because you have all
Mm,
these like we talked about the faith community, right? Like I'm not
yeah.
religious, I'm spiritual, I tell people, but like you're talking about these they're still communities, right? These are all
Yeah.
communities of people who are like trust each other, love each other, and
Yeah.
serve each other, right? So something that I just thought of was like getting this on written paper and then all these like churches sharing a newsletter like John's working on this. How can we help John, get,
Thanks, man.
some church groups. So when I write that out, I'll get that written for you and feel free to
Yeah.
send it. I'm not in the church circuit, but I'll send it
Yeah.
out to my gamers and creators.
I
John, we
appreciate
have
that, man.
it's just like what I can do, right? Like I don't know where my place is in the world. Like I like having these conversations because honestly, I'm trying to find my purpose, right? Like, and I've
Yeah.
told you this a couple times. I don't know. Like I'm not making money. But I'm picking this hard because I'm so fired up to do it that I'm inspired by people like you. So I wanted to thank you,
Mhm.
John, for taking the time to be on the podcast. We're going to work this up. We're going to make sure we get this out on the website. We're going to make sure that this is going out on socials. If people are listening, where can they connect with you or any of your organizations? I want you to take as much time to plug everything you want to plug, give people what they're looking forward to, because we can clip all these
Yeah.
little things out for you. But you have 10 minutes, man. Like, go at it. I wanted to just say thank
Yeah.
you again. And audience, lock in right now. John's going to give you the details on everything you need to know to keep up with this guy.
Yeah. So I just started using LinkedIn a ton. I went from like a brand new account to like I think I'm almost at 700 connections in like a
Let's
month.
go.
Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably where you'll see the most esports fruitful posts that I have. You'll probably see too many memes or like stupid dad jokes on my Twitter, but connect with me there too. It's at Johno Streams on X, on Twitter, whatever you call it. You can connect with me on Twitch. Hopefully I'll be able to start being live. I'd like to be able to like be live at least
Mhm.
once or twice a week for at least an hour to 2 hours just to talk with people. My content's going to pretty drastically shift, I feel like, to esports related content.
Mhm.
So it's just Johno, Johno over there. Hopefully my LinkedIn and everything else will just move to at Johno if this gets enough attention.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, connect with me there. You can shoot an email to jono@cfgc.gg. And just reach out, and I'd love to connect with you. My Discord handle is Johno with the number 1 afterwards too, so you can reach out to me there. I'm an open book. However, I can figure out how to add value to you guys. Seriously, I've had tons of mentors and awesome people that have just poured into me. So if I can do anything fruitful, my goal is to just make the most of this life. So
Amazing. I'm going to make sure all of those socials are linked. So if you're listening to the show or watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow John everywhere on social. John, we have some extra time, so I'm going to ask you you get an extra question today. If there were 1 million people listening to this, 1 million, and you can't sell a service, money doesn't matter, what would you tell 1 million people who are interested in pushing this message forward? What would you tell them they can do after listening right now that they can go and take action, right? Within 24 hours, how can they take action to help push this forward?
I think the most important thing that we can do is we can look at ourselves, and we can look at our past failures, and everything that we've learned, and figure out how what we've learned and what we're good at and what we want to add to the world comes together, where that all kind of meets a central point in our life. What is it that motivates us? What can we make a comfortable living at? What are we good at? Find that central point in your life that gives you that sense of purpose, and hone that. And then once you've honed that, bring that to the table, and then share that, because I believe that each person has a unique individual set of experiences. Like you said when we got before this call, I was like, Danny, I get to see your face, hopefully, man, because you're handsome, bro. Like, I'm tired of looking at my face. Well, one thing that I've thought about a lot, man, is like the person that each of us knows the best, that we spend the most time with, is ourselves. And if we can sit there and spend a little bit of time with ourselves to figure out what it is that we want from this life, and think of your life like a race. It's a marathon, not a sprint, so don't burn yourself out. But what is something that you would want to pace your life in a way that you run the race well? So that way you can, when you cross that finish line, it's like, man, put my time in, and this life was bigger than just myself, but I took everything within me, and I gave it to the world to make this world look more like heaven than hell. So,
John, I'm not even going to add to that. If you're listening to the podcast and you liked what John had to say, give him a thumbs up. Let's validate what this man's been working on. Amazing servant leader. You've inspired me, John, seriously, to keep pushing and keep creating and keep telling these stories. Consider me an odd man out a resource, man. Like, we're here to help. Community, reach out to John on LinkedIn. Let's blow this man up, make him famous so that
thanks, dude.
we can get him back to streaming. Thank you again, John, and we will see everybody on the next stream.